Shabbat Shalom. Good morning, YouTube. Today we are again reading out of the Bible. I am reading out of a translation called The Scriptures. I hope you are reading along with your Bible. So grab your coffee, grab your Bible, and let's read. Today we are starting in Numbers chapter 27. Then came the daughters of Zelophehad, son of Hephor, son of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Manasseh, from the clans of Manasseh, son of Joseph. And these were the names of his daughters: Mahlah, Noah, and Hoglah, and Milcah, and Tirzah. And they stood before Moshe and before Eleazar the priest, and before the leaders and all the congregation, by the doorway of the tent of appointment. Our father died in the wilderness, yet he was not in the company of those who were met together against Yahweh, in company with Korah, but he died in his own sin, and he had no sons. Why should the name of our father be removed from among his clan, because he had no son? Give us a possession among the brothers of our father. Moshe then brought their case before Yahweh. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, The daughters of Zelophehad speak what is right. You should certainly give them a possession of inheritance among their father's brothers, and cause the inheritance of their father to pass to them. And speak to the children of Israel, saying, When a man dies and has no son, then you shall cause his inheritance to pass to his daughter. And if he has no daughter, then you shall give his inheritance to his brothers. And if he has no brothers, then you shall give his inheritance to his father's brothers. And if his father has no brothers, then he shall give his inheritance to the nearest relative in his clan, and he shall possess it. And it shall be to the children of Israel a law of right ruling, as Yahweh commanded Moshe. And Yahweh said to Moshe, Go up into this Mount Abiram, and see the land which I have given to the children of Israel. And when you have seen it, you also shall be gathered to your peoples, as Aaron your brother was gathered, because you rebelled against my mouth in the wilderness of Sin, in the strife of the congregation, to set me apart at the waters before their eyes. These were the waters of Meribah at Kadesh in the wilderness of Sin. And Moshe spoke to Yahweh, saying, Let Yahweh, the Elohim of the spirits of all flesh, appoint a man over the congregation, who goes out before them and comes in before them, who leads them out and brings them in, so that the congregation of Yahweh be not like sheep without a shepherd. And Yahweh said to Moshe, Take Yehoshua, son of Nun, with you, a man in whom is the Spirit, and you shall lay your hand on him, and shall set him before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation, and give him command before their eyes, and shall put some of your esteem upon him, so that all the congregation of the children of Israel obey him. And he is to stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall inquire before Yahweh for him by the right ruling of the Urim. At his word they go out, and at his word they come in, both he and all the children of Israel with him, all the congregation. And Moshe did as Yahweh commanded him, and took Yehoshua and set him before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation, and laid his hand on him, and commissioned him as Yahweh commanded by the hand of Moshe. So we have some daughters that have no brothers, and they want to have their inheritance too, because there was no sin there of causing them not to have an inheritance. And the father agrees, yes, they shall get their inheritance. And Yehoshua is going to be Moses' successor, because Moses is not going to enter the land either. Chapter 28. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Command the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, Take heed to bring my offering, my food for my offering, made by fire, as a sweet fragrance to me at their appointed time. And you shall say to them, This is the offering made by fire which you bring to Yahweh, 2 male lambs, a year old, perfect ones, daily, a continual ascending offering. The one lamb you prepare in the morning, and the other lamb you prepare between the evening, with 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering, mixed with 1/4 of a hin of pressed oil. A continual ascending offering, which was offered at Mount Sinai for a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahweh. And its drink offering, 1/4 of a hin for each lamb. Pour out the drink to Yahweh as an offering in the set-apart place. And the other lamb you prepare between the evenings as the morning grain offering and its drink offering. You prepare it as an offering made by fire, a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. And on the Sabbath day, 2 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, and 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering, mixed with oil, and its drink offering. The ascending offering for every Sabbath, besides the continual ascending offering with its drink offering. And on the beginnings of your new moons, you bring near an ascending offering to Yahweh, 2 young bulls and 1 ram, and 7 lambs a year old, perfect ones. 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering mixed with oil for each bull. 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering mixed with oil for the 1 ram, and 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a grain offering for each lamb, as an ascending offering of sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahweh. And their drink offering is half a hin of wine for a bull, and 1/3 of a hin for a ram, and 1/4 of a hin for a lamb. This is the ascending offering for each new moon throughout the new moons of the year. And 1 male goat as a sin offering to Yahweh is prepared beside the continual ascending offering and its drink offering. And in the first new moon, on the 14th day, is the Pesach of Yahweh. And on the 15th day of this new moon is a festival. For 7 days, unleavened bread is eaten. On the first day is a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. And you shall bring near an offering made by fire as an ascending offering to Yahweh. 2 young bulls and 1 ram, and 7 lambs a year old, perfect ones they are for you. And their grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil. Prepare 3/10 of an ephah for a bull, and 2/10 for a ram. Prepare 1/10 of an ephah for each of the 7 lambs, and 1 goat as a sin offering to make atonement for you. Prepare these besides the ascending offering of the morning, which is for a continual ascending offering. According to these, you are to prepare the food of the offering made by fire daily for 7 days, as a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. It is prepared beside the continual ascending offering and its drink offering. And on the 7th day you have a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. And on the first day of the first fruits, when you bring a new grain offering to Yahweh at your festival of YHWH, you have a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. And you shall bring near an ascending offering as a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 lambs a year old, with their grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil. 3/10 of an ephah for each bull, 2/10 for 1 ram, 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs, 1 male goat to make atonement for you. Perfect ones they are for you. Prepare them with their drink offerings, beside the continual ascending offering with its grain offerings. So here we start a little review of the normal temple offerings, and then they go into the festivals, and they talk about Pesach, which is Passover, and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is the next week after. And then 50 days later, or like 7 Sabbaths later, there is a 1-day festival of YHWH. That one is a big harvest festival for their grain. I mean, I can't harvest grain that early, but you know. We're heading into Passover, which I am excited about. This will be our 2nd Passover that we're celebrating. And I've got lamb burgers because I don't have a lamb to slaughter. So I did buy some lamb. Our local Kroger's has ground lamb. And so I made some burger patties out of it. And I'm going to make unleavened bread all week. And it's going to be a good time. Chapter 29. And in the 7th new moon, on the first day of the new moon, you have a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. It is Yom Teruah for you. And you shall prepare an ascending offering as a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. 1 young bull, 1 ram, 7 lambs a year old, perfect ones, and their grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah for the bull, 2/10 for the ram, and 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs, and 1 male goat as a sin offering to make atonement for you. Besides the ascending offering with its grain offering for the new moon, the continual ascending offering with its grain offering, and their drink offerings, according to their right ruling, as a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahweh. And on the 10th day of this 7th new moon, you have a set-apart gathering, and you shall afflict your beings. You do no work. And you shall bring near an ascending offering to Yahweh, a sweet fragrance, 1 young bull, 1 ram, 7 lambs a year old, perfect ones they are for you. And their grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah for the bull, 2/10 for 1 ram, 1/10 for each of the 7 lambs, 1 male goat as a sin offering, besides the sin offering for atonement, the continual ascending offering with its grain offering and their drink offerings. And on the 15th day of the 7th new moon, you have a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work, and you shall celebrate a festival to Yahweh 7 days. And you shall bring an ascending offering, an offering made by fire, a sweet fragrance to Yahweh, 13 young bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs a year old, perfect ones they are, and their grain offering, fine flour, mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah for each of the 13 bulls, 2/10 for each of the 2 rams, and 1/10 for each of the 14 lambs. And 1 male goat as a sin offering, besides the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. Then on the 2nd day, 12 young bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs a year old, perfect ones, and their grain offering, and their drink offerings for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs by their number, according to the right ruling. And 1 male goat as a sin offering, besides the continual ascending offering with its grain offerings and their drink offerings. And on the 3rd day, 11 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs a year old, perfect ones, and their grain offering and their drink offerings for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs, by their number, according to the right ruling. And 1 goat as a sin offering, besides the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. Then on the 4th day, 10 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs a year old, perfect ones, and their grain offering and their drink offerings for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs, by their number, according to the right ruling. And 1 male goat as a sin offering, besides the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. Then on the 5th day, 9 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs a year old, perfect ones, and their grain offering and their drink offerings for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs, by their number, according to the right ruling. And 1 goat as a sin offering, besides the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. Then on the 6th day, 8 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs a year old, perfect ones, and their grain offering and their drink offerings for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs by their number, according to the right ruling. And 1 goat as a sin offering, besides the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. Then on the 7th day, 7 bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs a year old, perfect ones, and their grain offering and their drink offerings for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs, by their number, according to the right ruling. And 1 goat as a sin offering, besides the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. On the 8th day you have an assembly, you do no servile work. And you shall bring near an ascending offering, an offering made by fire, a sweet fragrance to Yahweh, 1 bull, 1 ram, 7 lambs a year old, perfect ones, their grain offering and their drink offerings for the bull, for the ram, and for the lambs, by their number, according to the right ruling. And 1 goat as a sin offering, besides the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering. These you prepare to Yahweh at your appointed times, besides your vowed offerings and your voluntary offerings, as your ascending offerings and your grain offerings, as your drink offerings and your peace offerings. And Moshe spoke to the children of Israel according to all Yahweh had commanded Moshe. So there's the rest of the festivals for the year: Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, and the Festival of Booths, where you go camping for a week. There's a lot of review as Moshe's like, all right, I want to make sure y'all understand. The Father told me to remind you again, because you need to hear it again. These are the rules. Don't forget, because Moses isn't going to be there to help make sure that they do this. Chapter 30. And Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Israel, saying, This is the word which Yahweh has commanded. When a man vows a vow to Yahweh, or swears an oath to bind himself by some agreement, he does not break his word. He does according to all that comes out of his mouth. Or if a woman vows a vow to Yahweh, and binds herself by some agreement, while in her father's house in her youth, and her father hears her vow, and the agreement by which she has bound herself, and her father has kept silent towards her, then all her vows shall stand, and every agreement with which she has bound herself stands. But if her father forbids her on the day that he hears, then none of her vows nor her agreements by which she has bound herself stand. And Yahweh pardons her because her father has forbidden her. But if she at all belongs to a husband, while bound by her vows or by a rash utterance from her lips by which she bound herself, and her husband hears it, and he has kept silent towards her on the day that he hears, then her vow shall stand, and her agreement by which she has bound herself do stand. But if her husband forbids her on the day that he hears it, then he has nullified her vow which she vowed, and the rash utterance of her lips by which she bound herself, and Yahweh pardons her. But any vow of a widow or a divorced woman by which she has bound herself stands against her. And if she vowed in her husband's house or bound herself by an agreement with an oath, and her husband heard it, and has kept silent towards her and did not forbid her, then all her vows shall stand, and every agreement by which she bound herself stands. But if her husband clearly nullified them on the day he heard them, then whatever came from her lips concerning her vows, or concerning the agreement binding her, it does not stand. Her husband has nullified them, and Yahweh pardons her. Every vow and every binding oath to afflict her being, let her husband confirm it, or let her husband nullify it. But if her husband is altogether silent at her from day to day, then he confirms all her vows, or all the agreements that bind her. He confirms them because he kept silent towards her on the day that he heard. But if he nullifies them after he has heard, then he shall bear her crookedness. These are the laws which Yahweh commanded Moshe between a man and his wife, and between a father and his daughter, in her youth, in her father's house. That one's pretty short. Now, it was a very much, the man was the head of the household. And he made the final say in everything. So if his daughter or his wife made a vow that he said no to, then that erased it. However, a widow, she made her own vows. A lot of, with today's feminism, a lot of people don't like that part of the Bible. That, the man was the head of the household and had the last decision. Well, guess what? There's always a leader. Someone has to have the final say. And to be a submissive wife is not to be a doormat. It's not to let your husband walk all over you or control you or anything. It's to be respectful that he has the last decision while he's alive, anyway. If he passes away, then the decision's all hers. But, so I see myself more like the vice president of the house, and my husband is the president of the house. I get my say, we discuss things, but ultimately, if there's a disagreement, he comes up with the final decision. And sometimes he will end up agreeing with me, and sometimes he doesn't. But it's on him, the burden is on him to decide what to do. But yeah, that's not seen very well in today's world. But there are some of us that still keep that. I didn't always, but I do now. And you know what? I don't want to lead. I'll lead if I have to, but I don't really want to. But that is the end of the reading for today. You only got 2 chapters last week, so today you get 4. Continuing on our regular schedule of 3 chapters. But I hope you have been following along in your own Bible. Don't take my word for it. And please join us again next Saturday. May the Father bless you. Shalom.